As I began to love myself, I freed myself of anything that is no good for my health. Food, people, things, situations, and everything that drew me down and away from myself. At first, I called this attitude a healthy egoism. Today, I know it is love of oneself. That's a Charlie Chaplin quote. I don't know much about him. I think he played Hitler one time. He at least had the stash. But no, the great dictator has some amazing quotes. As does hopefully this episode of Dylan with Life.
I used to think if I couldn't find hope, I should just let it all go. I used to think if I couldn't make dreams come true, I should just let them all go. When life seems impossible, look from every angle, change just one little thing. When life feels intolerable, find your true source of love. Concentrate, focus on love. Center now, focus on love. Dedicate, focus on love.
It's fall. It is fall outside, and it is beautiful. I'm looking at orange leaves, yellow leaves, green leaves, rain. It's quite comfortable, very comfortable. I sort of forget what fall is like every year, and I think I do it with every season. Like when summer rolls around, I'm like, oh my God, is this how hot it gets? Is this how hot it's going to be for months now? And then now with fall coming around, I'm like, wow. I say this every year, but I forgot how beautiful fall is. And winter's the same. I love winter. It gets cold. And it's like, is it going to be cold forever? And since I'm going through them all spring, the rejuvenation of spring is always beautiful, nice, crisp. And they're at the perfect intervals to forget them and miss them and have them still be novel seeming every year. Yeah, it's 30 years in. 30 years into my life. 31, 32 years into my life, and still surprised by the seasons. Still impressed by the seasons. I'll give them that. And I think that helps from living somewhere where we get 4 distinct seasons. And I think 30 years in, I'm still surprised by a lot of things, I guess. I'm surprised by how much I still feel like a child, like a youth. I think everybody talks about this or has realized this, but growing up, I always thought there'd be a point where I was an adult. And I just don't see that coming now, which is fearful when I start to think about becoming a parent. Is that I'm going to have to be me as a parent. I'm not going to become an adult and then become a parent or a husband. There's not an adult version of me coming that's just going to take over the reins and be like, all right, I'm a husband and dad now. I'm going to have to become a husband and dad. And as scary as that is, it's exciting. And I think in my 30s here, that's where we're at. In my 20s, it was all birthday parties every year, so many of them. And those were the big events where you'd see everybody and catch up. And now it's engagement parties and weddings and baby-related events. It's so little birthdays now, and I'm glad it is. And I think if you're still having birthday parties in your 30s, that you're a diva. And that's fine. Sorry. It's fine to be a diva. But just know that you are. That also comes from someone whose birthday's New Year's Day, so they don't and they've never been able to really throw a party. But I also don't want it about me. And if you're in your 30s and you want it about you, I don't know. Maybe you're just a social person or something. And babies, man, babies attract babies. It's ridiculous. We have some friends up here, a couple. Well, not a couple friends, some friends that are a couple. And I mean, we have a couple friends up here too, like a couples. But this one couple had a baby recently. And in my first full year in Squamish, I spent 0 minutes with any babies. Since they've had a baby, I've spent many minutes with many babies. And where were all these babies before? I've seen them through car windows and in strollers on the street. But all of a sudden now everybody 1 degree away from me has a baby. And I like babies. I can say that confidently and comfortably. But I don't want to spend all my time around multiple babies. 1 baby, super down, actually. It's really nice when a friend has a baby and you can go over and you just sort of hang out, chat, have a drink, maybe play some game and there's a baby there and you stop to tend to it and somebody's holding it. 1 baby, great number of babies. 2 babies? Dicey. Because which baby are you going to get attention to? Now you got to be like on alert both sides of you. Is baby on the right going to cry? Is baby on the left going to cry? Any more than 2 babies? I'd rather not be there. Especially because I don't have a baby. And it's like parents have a different language. Baby parents speak a different language that I don't speak. And they don't even want to or know how to talk to me because I don't speak baby parent. And that's okay. Because we're at different life stages. But it's certainly an interesting thing. You can be the same age as people, the same within a couple years, whatever, seemingly in the same stage of life, yet so far removed. And it's something I've noticed recently is that really dictates the level. I don't want to say the level of friendship because it doesn't really. You're still individual people outside of whether you're a parent or what you do for work or how much money you have, whether you own a house. But there is a feeling there that, I don't know, maybe I can't get past. I don't think I can't get past it, but I definitely feel it, whether I want to or not, that there's just an air of difference. You know, we've met and made friends with a lot of different people up here, and there's one couple that happens to live in our building, which is great, makes it super easy. But they're also in a very similar place in life as us. All the same age as some of our other friends, but most of the other friends we have up here have bought a house, have or are having a baby. And that shouldn't make a difference, and it consciously doesn't. But what I'm saying is there is a feeling there. It's more comfortable at times to hang out with the couple that's also renting an apartment in the same building as us for a stupid amount of money. And that's not married or engaged yet. And is probably still a few years away from a child. And I wonder what that's like on the other side, because it's got to be somewhat similar when you're a parent and you have a child to look after and you have some friends that don't know what that responsibility is like. And it must be nice to then hang out with other parents because they get it. And I think that's a really interesting feeling and separation that's going to happen more and more throughout your 30s. And I wonder what that looks like. I wonder how long it will take me. I do want to get married. I do want to have kids. I do want to buy a house. But I'm not there yet. And I don't know when I'll be there. Not this year, since it's already fall. And probably not next year. Because you kind of got to start those things in advance of them happening. And I'm currently Funemployed. Professional podcaster. Since I'm professionally podcasting now, I have put more time and effort because I'm a pro. No, but I have started a YouTube page for no reason other than felt like something to do. No, I always meant to, and who knows? Just another way to have it out there. It's probably actually going to be a sadder way to have it out there because on the Spotify's, subscribe if you haven't on Spotify. On the Apple podcast, subscribe if you haven't. Wherever you listen to. As a professional podcaster, I make calls to action now. But you can't see the views on those. Like, they're not just right in your face. And so you never really know like how high or how low. But on YouTube, obviously there's view counts. And that's a thing that is so pushed at you sneakily, but it's something we all know and notice that it's going to be funny to see my episodes at like 1 view. 0 views. Currently at 0 views for most of them because I just uploaded a bunch. And with not being immediately ready for some of those life things, I do want to say that so far life has been on an upward trajectory, which is great, right? That's ideal. It's how it should be. And don't get me wrong, there's some hiccups and some setbacks over a few months here and there, but generally, year over year, things have improved. And life in your 30s really feels like that more. Or it's a noticeable thing. Of course, there's the scare of aging. That is, for me, pretty loud. But the day-to-day, the life you live, the confidence of self, the place and situation you live in, those are all getting better. And I know it's not like that for everyone. But a large portion of people's trajectory is upward for what they envision their life to be, and that's nice. But that's also where all the fear for me comes in. Because I'm not sure what a down year would look like, or a down 2 years would do to me. Or how you would climb back up out of that downward spiral. And if I'm thinking marriage, house, baby, whatever order those happen in, then it gets even scarier to have an off year. I'd say I'm probably in a period right now, though mostly by choice, of a bit of a slump, just because I'm not working or earning money right now and just living off savings. And I guess that feels like a slump because I need to earn money to get to the house, to get to the security before family. Other than that, I guess it's not a slump, but it's a luxury that I have right now being in the situation I am. And that's something I built up through my 20s to have this little security net, to be able to take some time now. But if I had a kid, there's no way I would feel... I don't even feel great about taking this time now, but it would be impossible to take time knowing that I need to provide for them, knowing that I need to pay a mortgage. And so at the same time that things are getting more secure, those clamps are tightening at the same time. But it is a lot better than your early 20s. That's for sure. In your 30s, the grocery store is an outing, and I'm not mad about that. We've got a Walmart next to us, and before I moved up here, I hadn't been to a Walmart in years, probably. And I forgot what it's like. I generally try my best and feel pretty good about supporting local and not huge corporations, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. And groceries are expensive. So we end up at Walmart. And like I said, it's fun. Sometimes when I'm feeling adventurous, I walk through the whole store to browse, not even just the grocer section. You know, I'm looking at outdoor plant pots and table umbrellas, mirrors, car parts, just having a browse. You never know what's going to be down the next aisle, especially if you only do it every once in a while. Oh, and the other day when I went, they had Dunkaroos. 3 boxes for $9. And that's why I go to Walmart. Yeah, Dunkaroos. What do you say about Dunkaroos? Cookies and frosting, I'm pretty sure is what they are. And that was part of my balanced lunch growing up. And one more thing about Walmart is, for as much as they've embraced the robots, maybe to a fault, they've got these massive self-checkout lines and barely anybody to actually help you. They do employ, how do I say this? People who otherwise probably wouldn't have employment. And they do that quite consistently, which is great. So, good for Walmart, is what I'm saying. Good for Walmart greeters. I'm going to say it. I'm warming up to Pickles. They no longer ruin something for me. Pickles on a burger or sandwich used to mean that I'm not eating it. And then there was a point where I was picking them off for a while. And now, I kind of just leave them. I credit Nashville hot chicken sandwiches and smash burgers with that fact. And the growth I've gone through. I'm still not going to choose a pickle. But every now and then, with the right food, I will indulge. Just no mustard. And that's not changing whether I'm 30 or 130. What is changing? And I'm not even sure I'm happy about it. No, I'm happy about it. But it wasn't my choice. Is that living with someone, my house has a lot less stuff. And I love stuff. And I remember when I was younger, my house just had stuff in it. Things. And when I go check on my little cousin, 21 years old, their house just has stuff. There's a lot of stuff. There's not as much space. It's not as open. And I remember reading The Minimalists with those two guys, Ryan something and Nicodemus. You know those guys. The minimalist guys. And it made sense then. The whole thing. I think that's probably stuck with me more than I give it credit for, and that's something I should go back to now. It's been a good handful of years, 6 years, 7 years. I know they did a doco. I should check that out. You should check that out. Maybe that's the recommendation. The Minimalists. They have a book. They had a podcast. The podcast was kind of fun. but I got less stuff in my house. And I look around and I think, hey, it looks better in here. It looks decent in here. I would have more things on the walls, for sure. But maybe that's wrong. Or maybe that's Stockholm Syndrome. Or maybe that's life in Squamish. Maybe that's life in a mountain town or a small town. I feel like there being less noise, figuratively and literally, outside and around me makes me want to have less noise in the house. It makes me hate going to the city because it's so much nicer. If you have grown up in or around a big city most of your life and are still there and have had the thought or the dream of moving to a smaller town or to a smaller city, I would highly recommend that. Scratch the minimalists. That's the recommendation. Get away and get into a tighter community if you've had the feeling that you might like it. Because you can toy with it for forever. You can wait till you're 50, till the kids are grown up and then move out there. Or you could just do it now. I'd thought about it for years and was afraid to do it because of the change more than anything. And I would not go back now. I'd go back if I had to take care of a family member or some circumstance, a really, really high paying job. But I wouldn't go back to it for a normal good job or a slightly better job. I would stay in my small town. And Squamish is up to like 30,000, so I don't actually know where that ranks on small towns or not. But it's so much more peaceful. The noise is the biggest thing. I drive down to the city, and as soon as I open my car door, it's just loud. It's just annoying. It's not peaceful. And I think that's something that you get used to, but that doesn't go away. That's always there in the background, and you've just learned to live with it by probably shutting part of your brain off. But living somewhere quieter, you can turn that part back on, and you feel the difference. And you see that difference in other people. People are so much nicer up here. People smile and say hi for no reason, because they're seeing you, because you're a person. I remember I hadn't been down to the city in like 3 weeks, and I went down and I was walking to get a tea and some banana bread. And I walked past somebody on the sidewalk and I like gave them a nod and a smile. And they looked at me like a crazy person. And then 2 more times on this walk, same thing, nod, smile, and like a weird look. Like I had Sharpie scribbled on my face. Or that one of my eyes was where my nose should be. Yeah, the feeling. It's loud. It's loud. Also, when events happen in Squamish, in a small town, you see all the familiar faces. Because there's not a billion things to do. It's like, hey, this is the big thing that's going on. We're all going to go. Even something like the farmer's market every Saturday. Squamish has a farmer's market. And you see people. You see people that you saw on your hike earlier in the week. You see your friends. You see people that you've seen before, that you've smiled at before, and then you do it again. And it's nice. And I don't know if it's nice because it's not where I grew up. I could see if I grew up here that maybe I wouldn't want to be seeing all the people from high school or something. But being only a year and a bit into this, it's nice to see familiar faces so frequently and so effortlessly. And that just leads to then more interactions. And a mountain town outdoor city is such a cool place seasonally. Squamish is known for rock climbing, hiking, mountain biking, all the outdoor mountain sports. And that is what it is. It's a hub for that. And it's hard to see, as much as it's easy for people to see at these events, during the day and during random things, people are doing what they want to do. They're out. But then we get winter, where a lot of those things aren't as accessible, where it's wet, where it's cold. And the whole city turns into a complete different vibe. And it's about going to each other's houses and playing board games and just hanging out more. Whereas I feel in the city, you don't get that same divide. So you don't get that time to, this is the time that we spend together. And this is the time of the year that we do our own thing. In the city, there's no lines. There's no separation there. It's just you do what you do forever because it's all right there and it's all so close and you can do whatever you want. And then the natural beauty. To look around and see trees and mountains, and especially like right now, these moody, low clouds and fog, to have rivers and lakes just everywhere, as opposed to concrete and metal, cars and garbage. So much less garbage up here. Move to a small town. That's the recommendation. Get out of the city. Or at least spend some significant time in a small town. If you have a friend living in a small town close by, the next place over, go visit them. Spend a couple nights. Get a feel for it. And there's this, I talked about it on the last episode, what a community is responsible for. And up here, it feels like a community. Something I never got in Vancouver. And even though I lived in Mount Pleasant, which is a community, like it still just doesn't feel like it. There's too many people. There's people in and out. It just doesn't work. And when we moved up here, that was one of the biggest things we agreed on, and a motivation for the move was to be a part of a smaller and tighter community. And when the dog ran away, we felt that so strongly. There was tens of people looking for our dog at all times, at least for the first couple weeks where there was still more hope, probably. But the second day she was missing, there was a search team of 32 people. And all these people were messaging us, were checking in, were asking if we needed anything. I was camping out in the forest that she had ran into, and at midnight, 2 girls rolled up, gave me some candy, said they heard what happened, were thinking of us, blah, blah, blah. And we'd wake up to messages and check-ins, and people like, when you get her back, recommend this trainer and this collar, and just people actually cared. And they had the time to care, and they had the ability to care. Because there's not so much else going on. There's still things, of course, don't get me wrong. We're 50 minutes from Vancouver. It's not the middle of nowhere, but it is just such a different vibe immediately. And when you see the people that you saw at the farmer's market, on a hike, or at the grocery store, or at the top of the gondola, it's just nice to know that you sort of know who's around you all the time. And you don't know them personally, but you know their vibes, and you know it's good. So if not move to a small town, at least visit a small town. I'm going to be visiting a not small town very soon here. It's the end of September that I'm recording this. And in mid-October, I will be going overseas for the first time in my life. And note on that, I was telling a friend here, and I said going overseas. And he said, what? You've never left the country? And I said, well, I've left the country. You know, I've gone to the States. I went to Mexico, as they call it. I've just never gone overseas. And he said, oh my goodness gracious me. I just realized a thing that is for the Brits only. And him being English, then made the connection that when you say you're headed overseas there, you're leaving the country because it's an island. But that for pretty much everywhere else in the world, going overseas has a bigger meaning. You're leaving the continent, generally. But I'm going overseas. I'm going to Greece. And again, for a boy who has left the Pacific Northwest once to go to Mexico and a handful of times to go to Ontario, I think I'm in for a bit of a culture shock. I'm talking about the difference between small town and big town that are less than an hour drive away from each other or at an hour drive away from each other. I can't imagine the difference I'm going to feel in Greece. Itinerary looks like from Vancouver to Dublin, which will be something, there for a night, 2 nights. And I have to say, I have no desire to go to Ireland. And I'm sorry for the Irish out there. What we're going to do, we're actually going to leave Dublin early to go to Newcastle to see a concert. And I'm making my partner do that because I don't really care to spend any time in Ireland. And I'm sorry about that. I don't know why. I don't think it's right. But it is how I feel. So we'll do Dublin, have a Guinness, a proper Guinness, see what pubs are like there. I hear about it, and in my head I'm like, yeah, sure, pubs are different, whatever. But it will be cool to experience that. And then Greece, because my father has a Greek partner, and I have a Greek half-brother that is 30 years younger than me, and he gets to go to Greece every year because he's half Greek. And so I'm tagging along. I'm excited to eat. I think eating in Greece. I'm excited to eat. I mean, that's just a statement that I can say whenever and it'll always be applicable. Like, I'm excited to eat after this episode is recorded. Having chili for dinner. But I'm excited to eat in Greece. And excited to eat in Ireland too. I love potatoes. I'll have breakfast in the UK. I love beans. I've heard UK food described as beige, and that's my favorite color of food. So I'm stoked. But yeah, Greece, and then leaving Greece and going to Paris. Again, that's how they say it there. Doing like 2 nights there, which, I don't know. I don't know if I would ever choose to go to France, except to see Rafa Nadal at Roland Garros, but it's not Roland Garros time. I'll eat cheese. I'll drink wine. I'll look at the Louvre. But I'm cautiously excited for the experience. I think I'll probably be quite a different person on the other side of those 3 weeks. Especially coming at a time like this where I'm already in a transitional phase, or I've been in a transitional phase for like a year already. And this is going to be this end cap on it before I really start this new life in Squamish, start a new job. And yeah, I will be different. This will be a good last building block on me in my 30s. You know, I think this year here really sets me up for a new life. And part of that is I'm going to Greece in October. I'm saying it again because for the past 6 years, I've done Sober October religiously. The first year I did it was the year my best friend Andrew was in a motorcycle accident, and it was a huge help to deal with that with a clear and unpoisoned mind and not to turn to that. That was a coincidence that was the first year, but I've done it every year since because I saw the value and I felt the value. And now every year it's been really nice. I've gotten somebody close to me, a handful of people close to me, depending on the year, to do it as well. And it's a great time for reflection. Reflection was always the biggest thing. It would remind me where I was at the previous October. I would do more writing. I started this podcast during a Sober October. I would do physical activities and just feel better. during October, and I used sobriety as the excuse to do those things, or maybe not the excuse, maybe that's what I needed, was sobriety to do those things. I never was an alcoholic, that's for sure, and I didn't even drink all that much, is maybe not true, because working at a brewery, you have a casual beer a lot more than you should, but I wasn't just having nights after nights after nights. But working service industry, yeah, you would definitely end your night with a beer. And this year, I won't be doing Sober October because I'm going to be in Greece. And a couple years ago, maybe I would have said, well, that's a cop-out. That's the whole point of doing it, is so that you can show yourself that you can do normal things, live your life, and just not have a drink. But that's not even the full reason I'm not doing it. I don't know if I would do it if I wasn't going to Greece. And that's because I've just been drinking less, a lot less, and not feeling like Sober October serves a purpose anymore and would just kind of be a hindrance. And again, that's a weird thing to say, because not being able to drink for 31 days should never be seen as a hindrance. But I went from averaging probably at least a drink a day, if not two. On average, 4 days of the week, I'd have 3 beers types of thing. Now, I barely hit a drink a week. And in theme with what I've been talking about, I think that's just sort of part of your 30s and part of growth. A, I can't drink the way I used to. B, I feel it a lot more. I think that's the same as point A. But the birthday parties have stopped. The parties, the let's go and drink has stopped. My plans have different goals now. They're things like, let's go play a board game. Or go on a hike, or outdoor things are like, just things where I don't want to be drinking. I don't need to be drinking. And that's, of course, a good thing, and I'm glad to be there. But there is a part of me that mourns Sober October. Coming to this decision earlier this month was actually kind of sad, because I got so much value out of the month. And I really think I can't get that value anymore, because it wouldn't be enough of a change. It wouldn't be enough of a thing for me to easily motivate myself to then make the other changes that I made during the month in years prior. And so if you've done Sober October in the past and are still drinking at the level that you usually do or have in the past, please still do it. I'm not doing it this year, but I wish I was. But I also don't wish I was, because that would mean that I felt I was drinking more, that a sober month would help. I did do sober first half of September, for those feeling like I've abandoned you, because I do like to still prove to myself that I can live my life and be social, which is a big one for me, without a drink here and there. So you're not alone. And I think my plan is to do another 15-day spell at some point, but I honestly get close to that anyway without thinking about it. But as the winter comes in, maybe that changes. So I'll pick another 15 days. I will do some sort of physical challenge or journaling. Every year I did journaling every day during October. I'll still do that. Probably a good idea while traveling. I'll have a lot of different thoughts, and I can come back with some memories of those thoughts. And I can speak them here. Tea for the episode today, I think quite in line with fall, is a maple rooibos. I'm sure quite Canadian. I'm sure also available anywhere. I wish I can't remember the brand. I'm trying to shout out the brand so I can get a sponsorship. But I guess since I'm not sponsored, I'm not shouting out the brands. If you want me to say your brand name, send me some tea. Maple rooibos tea. Fall rainy day, feeling okay, physically in some pain, because this past weekend, we're talking 5 days ago, I ran a 9-kilometer trail race. Now I say run, but I didn't I didn't really. I came out of the male participants 7th last. Now I have an excuse. I don't know how much it would have changed my placement, but I have an excuse. I rolled my ankle 3 minutes into this thing. Like an absolute buffoon. And now some of you might say, oh, that's bad luck, but it's 100% my fault. I am, in my 30s here, falling apart. And just, this ankle's not a new thing. I have an ankle brace. The ankle brace was in the car at the start of this little run, and I left it there. And it's this thing, and I think this is another aspect of being at this age that I'm not fully here yet. I don't know where I am. I don't know if I'm an adult or a kid. I'm like, everything I'm talking about is encapsulated in this decision not to wear my ankle brace. And this thought came from my partner. Actually, we were seeing some friends, and they asked what we were doing this weekend. And she said, oh, we've got a trail race this weekend. It's just 9K. And made sure to throw that. It's just 9K. Like, it's just this little thing. And then she caught herself and she explained it to the table that she wants to make an effort to stop doing that. Like, she says it's just a 9K, but she knows that it's pretty much the max, near the max of what we can do. We don't run 9K normally. It's an accomplishment. It's a cool thing. It's not a thing that everybody does. And it's not a thing that we do. And we should be proud and not discrediting our accomplishments. And it made a ton of sense. And she went on to explain that it probably comes from like she's been athletic her whole life. And as have I. And it's that background where it's expected that we should be able to do this without fail and that it shouldn't be a hard thing. It's just 9K. But it's such a demeaning thought to have just for yourself and for others who are doing it and maybe haven't lived the same childhood, and that this is a big thing that they've been working towards and are very proud of. To overhear somebody be like, oh, it's just a 9K. I can't believe I'm going to be slow and I'm not going to do what I like. It's a thing you're doing. Be happy and proud of the thing you're doing. And I let that sort of marinate in my head a bit, and then the next day was the race, and then I rolled my ankle, and I was so pissed because I chose not to wear my ankle brace. I made that decision. I brought it, and I chose not to wear it. And in that moment, I didn't spend any time on why I made that decision or exactly what the feelings were that made me not want to wear it, even though there was a feeling, and if I spent time to explore that, I would have been able to articulate it. But I did so after. And it's that same essence that I didn't want to look like a try-hard. I didn't want to look like I needed support for this 9K. I didn't want to look like this was anything other than easy, a walk in the park. Because growing up, I felt that this should be, the minimum of what I should do. I've run a half marathon. I used to do 10Ks, tried to do 10Ks a month, and now I haven't in a while, and I've spent the last 2 months lying on a couch and also getting injured playing pickleball, which is where I originally dummied this ankle a couple months ago. But I didn't want to be hindered. I wanted to be able to go as fast as I can, so I didn't want this not that bulky brace on. And I didn't want to look to other people that I was out there to try my hardest. Even though I was going to try my hardest, because why wouldn't I? It's something I'm doing. Put your all into what you do, and then you'll get everything you can out of it. Instead of putting half of yourself into it and getting half of what you could out. So I made this decision to not wear my brace, and within minutes, rolled that same ankle. And I had to stop for a couple minutes, and Chris was great. She came back and checked on me, and I pushed her away. I was like, just fucking go. And I'm like yelling at myself like a doofus in the trail as people are passing by me. And I'm like, ugh. Only for the reason that I'm mad at myself. I don't even care that I rolled my ankle. I cared that I put myself in a position where I was knowingly at a higher chance of rolling my ankle, knowing that I as a person am already at a higher chance of that because I've done it recently. And I just was mad at myself. I was mad at myself for not accepting who I am today and trying to be who I was in the past. And I think it was probably a good thing to have happen, especially just after hearing that thought point, so that I could have these thoughts. And going forward, just like, hey, take care of yourself, put yourself in the best position to succeed, instead of trying to live in the past, because you only are who you are today. At least for today. And if you want to be somebody different tomorrow, then that's going to take some change. And I hope that tomorrow I'm the type of person that puts a brace on instead of being too prideful. But while we're talking about pride and being proud, I ran through this ankle, which I am extremely proud of. I felt that was quite a feat. Quite an ankle, actually. And it was a decision. A smart one or not, I don't know. My ankle was a balloon immediately after, but I don't think I did any more damage. But my right leg, it was my left ankle that I rolled, my right leg is cooked because I was running like Terry Fox out there. And so my right leg was catching all my weight, and then my left would throw a little limp out there. And so my right calf is, way more tired and sore than it should be after a run. Same with my thigh and my buttocks. And it's interesting because my left feels absolutely nothing besides the ankle. But in any case, it was just good to realize that sometimes I need support. And that just because there's a strength level you want to be at, it doesn't mean you're there. And it's better to take some help so that you have a better chance of getting through things. I think having a community, to really bring it all back and tie it all in, having a community helps you get through those things. That's your brace. That's your strength. And that's something that is valuable to me, at least, is to feel like I can do more because I have the support of those around me. This is Dylan with Life, by the way. Realize that I don't say that as often while going through this whole YouTube addition. I ended up having to re-download all the audios. And so the way I was doing it, I was ending up they would automatically start playing. And so I was hearing the intros to a lot of the episodes. And my intros have gotten so corny deep recently from the days of just singing Cher. But I also mentioned at least what you were listening to at times. And so this is Dylan with Life. This is Dylan with Life, a podcast about life and Dylan with it. Remember to subscribe wherever you're listening to this, if you haven't, because it's like giving me a high five. And I like high fives. Doesn't take much from you. Makes me smile. Song. The song of my summer, at least late summer, was Hosier, Too Sweet. And so the song of now, before I forget to recommend it, is that Too Sweet by Hosier. And it's one of my favorite songs of all time, probably. Can't be said I'm an early bird. It's 10 o'clock before I say a word. Baby, I could never tell. How do you sleep so well? You keep telling me to live right. Banger. Absolute banger. I think that's it. I think we're done.
You can have it all.
T's got one last sip in it.
What all is. You can make your
I don't think I have much more.
true. You can find bliss.
Squamish is a beautiful place
And remember, it will flow back to.
for beautiful people. And I'm sure you're a beautiful person. So move to Squamish or somewhere like it.